Ladies
So
and
now do I...
Ladies and gentlemen of Ballet International, I welcome you to this new interview. And online, we have today an important member of Ballet International. She joined Ballet International a few weeks ago, and her name is Bronwyn Paterson. She has been dancing with PACT Ballet, and the first time I met her, it was in 1980. And then when I left in 1982, with great regret, I had to leave a lot of great dancers of PACT Ballet. And so now we have been catching up again. And thankfully, she accepted to participate to this new interview. So, hello, Bronwyn. How are you doing?
Hello, Jean-Pierre. I'm fine. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for inviting me to do this. It's a pleasure to do anything for you at all. You are such a sweetheart. And yes, I hope that everything you are endeavoring to do to support ballet and to encourage young dancers is going to be hugely successful.
Thank you very much. I try to do the best I can. So,
certainly do.
Dear Bronwyn, so many decades have been flowing with the time. And
Yes.
so I will start the interview asking you, could you explain to our members when you were a child, what inspired you to start learning ballet? Was it only you, or was somebody in your family who suggested you to do ballet, or maybe you saw some pictures, or you heard some music that you loved? At that time, there wasn't any video. So can you describe that?
My mother loved ballet, and she loved classical music, and she loved opera. And I distinctly remember this. It's a memory that stands out in my childhood very clearly. I can even still visualize it. She booked tickets for me to see Swan Lake. I was 5 years old, and they set up a platform on the Zoo Lake in Parktown in Johannesburg. And I remember saying to her, we were in plastic camping chairs to watch as the audience, yes. Are those real people? And she said, yes, of course they're real. And I said, well, that's what I want to be one day when I grow up. And because we didn't have a lot of money, I had to wait. I had to wait until I was 8 years old. Yes. That was a long time for a child. And then my grandmother paid for my lessons.
That's nice. And who were your teachers, and in which ballet school did you start learning ballet?
My first teacher was somebody called Joy Cooper, who was a Chiketi ballet teacher.
Yes.
And because obviously she lived in our area, yes. And she was a brilliant technician.
Yes.
And it is her I have to thank for the 5th position that I had and the turnout. Yes. She trained in very, very good technique. Yes. And so I did grade 1 and grade 2 with her.
Yes.
And then, unfortunately, I had an event where I did not obey my mother, and she stopped me dancing. I danced on a coffee table that had a scalloped glass top. Yes. She forbade me to dance on that thing, and I did. I got up and danced on it, and you know what happened next? Glass slid off, and I was not allowed to go back to ballet lessons for 6 months.
Oh, shame.
And then I pined for ballet lessons. And by that stage, we'd moved, and so I ended up with Marjorie Sturman.
Marjorie Sturman, yes.
Marjorie Sturman. Yeah. And unfortunately, I was 10 years old then, and we didn't have the honor of having Marjorie Sturman for our lessons. We had somebody called Miss Grant.
Yes.
And I didn't progress too well there. So
Yeah.
my mother found a ballet teacher called Raina Berman, who was also RAD
Yes.
and a ballet examiner. And she was quite a sergeant major, quite a scary lady, not very complimentary, but she knew what she was doing. So I trained with her.
Yeah.
And then afterwards I went to art school, the Johannesburg Art School.
Yes. And
Yeah.
then you have been studying at the art school for how many years before entering and auditioning and making part of PACT Ballet? How many years?
So in my day, they only had the last 2 years of high school, standard 9 and standard 10.
Yes.
So I went in standard 9.
Yes.
But I didn't choose the ballet subjects. We had an option. I chose the academic subjects.
Yes.
But our ballet, we learned ballet, classical Greek, and Spanish dancing, and we had the best teachers in Joburg for that. We also had Marjorie Sturman,
Yes.
Ruth Inglestone, and Bernice Lloyd, and Mercedes Molina,
Yes.
and Jean Becky for Greek.
Oh.
So it was a very necessary foundation in order to get into a ballet company, and perhaps the only one to choose from.
Yes.
So it was really a wonderful opportunity.
Were those easy time or difficult times for you when you were a child and you were growing up with learning ballet?
I don't think it was too easy. We struggled for money. And yes, I think it was a difficult time for my mother too, to juggle around. Yeah. So, but it wasn't awful. I think it grounded me to stand on my own 2 feet, catching buses and staying in town late and, just getting on with it.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
and
then going from art school.
You made an audition to enter the PACT.
Yes. When I was in the first, in my last year of high school, the PACT ballet came to the school, and they chose 4 of us to be in Sleeping Beauty with Margot Fontaine. So we were chosen to be Caraboss's attendants in that production, which you can imagine was incredibly exciting.
Yes.
So I was very privileged to do that. And then I did have to go and audition. And in my year, we were not selected. We had a fair audition and we had to do one and then be called back for another one. And they took 5 of us. So that's how I got into PACT.
Yes. And then afterwards, they accepted you as a full member of the company?
Yes. We always had to do that apprenticeship year as an aspirant.
Yes.
They called us aspirant. But basically we were in the company, it's just that we had to sort of wait our turn.
Yes.
And learn a lot. We had to learn a lot. But we had wonderful Denise Schultz. I absolutely idolized her.
I think she was.
I was terrified of her.
She was directing.
But I idolized her.
She was directing.
And she took us. She was the director with Louis Godfrey.
Yes.
Yes. Of PACT Ballet at that time. And she was the most outstanding teacher. Yes. She really was amazing. And she also took us for rehearsals and she polished us. She had standards and we had to abide by that. Yeah.
I think that when you get closer to your computer, your image freezes a little bit. So if you stand a little bit.
You want me to go back?
Yes. Yes.
Sorry.
Otherwise the pictures freeze a little bit, okay? Because there's also the noise who interfere. So, what were your first ballet that you danced as a corps ballet?
My first year was a nice opportunity. I got to do Giselle. So I was one of the willies in front.
So you were
And I also got to
in the second act, you were like a Willis.
yes, and then in the first act, I was one of her friends,
Yes,
but not first cast. I was second cast.
second cast.
Yes, only first cast in Act 2, the Willies, but the friends second cast. Yeah,
Yes,
but that was a lovely little dance, and I loved that. So I mean, Giselle has always been my favorite ballet.
yes. Well,
And then we
is one of the pure classic, Giselle.
yes, and then we did Fille, La Fille Magadé,
Yes.
and I was a chicken, a chicken, which is always fun.
Yeah. Well,
It's a lovely.
yes, it's a beautiful role in the female garde, you know, because it's a beautiful ballet. I love it. I really love it. So what was your first impression when you joined the ballet company, PACT Ballet, and, you know, just getting used to the atmosphere with the other dancers, with the other ballerinas, and, you know, that atmosphere that we all know? Was it a little bit difficult for you, or you got used very quickly to it? Have you been accepted by the company soon, or you had some
I think
hard
there were moments where we had to learn, and I think one is very young. I was 17, so straight out of school, but it was quite hard in the beginning because you have to wait your turn, and often there was a lot of sitting around and watching others while you waited to do something, maybe if you got a turn in rehearsal. So sitting around all day was very hard for me because I loved nothing better than hard work, just to get my teeth stuck into something and work and work and work. And very often you didn't have that chance because you'd get in the way if you jumped around on top of other people rehearsing, you know, so you had to just be very patient. So I'd go to extra classes afterwards at night with a lovely lady called Jose Pretorius, who was Ducati. She never charged me. She never charged me a cent. She was just so kind. Yeah. I just did that for the extra hard work.
What was or what were the roles that you started dancing in which you had a little bit of fear, you know, that sometimes you would go on stage and you were a little bit scared to go on stage because you knew that technically they were too difficult, too strong for you. So, and it was a hard attempt, you know, you said, I have to do it, but I am scared to do it.
I can't think of anything offhand straight away. I got the role of Cygnets, Little Swans. You know, I was just nervous anyway, no matter what it was. I used to get really nervous, but I used to just say to myself, you're doing it for love. You show the audience that love, and you do it with sincerity, and you jolly well have to be determined because you work for this. And then you had to give yourself a stern talking to. Once on stage, it was fine. In answer to your question, I do remember one terrible period where, unfortunately, I was doing, and that was much later, War and Peace. And there was a ballroom scene, which was very hard. There were 12 couples, and we had to do pas de deux. We're going to quite a hard choreography.
Andrei Plakowski choreography.
Yes, he did it. And the choreography was quite hard and challenging. Beautiful Tchaikovsky's Piano Concerto No. 1. And I had a partner who chose to get drunk every night before the performance, and he wouldn't pitch on stage. He didn't even arrive at the theater until moments before the curtain opened. And I had quite a few wobblies. So that terrified the life out of me, because when you're doing a bit with a man, screwed, and was very embarrassed. It was
Yes.
Just that was what terrified me. And then there was another one, in answer to your question, the Paterson in Papillon, which was quite difficult.
Yes.
But I could do it. Yeah, I did.
Yes. Well, I think that
manage.
finally, all dancers, even if they are nervous naturally or not, they always do it. Finally, soon or
You
less.
don't think, well,
Yeah.
yes. And, it's amazing how, as a dancer, you can do something in performance that is, you've done your best, but that one thing just didn't come off, or that one thing was just not quite perfect. And you will harp onto that one thing,
Yeah.
and let yourself think about that.
Yes.
If in hindsight, when I think about it now, gee, we beat ourselves up a lot. We all did.
Yes. Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. And during the training ballet class, were there some exercises that you prefer to do the most, and there were some exercises that you were a little bit, worried, some diagonals, or some jumps, or some turns, exercises that you were a little bit, you were not really enjoying this type of training, but you had to do it because it was the class.
No, honestly, no. I loved the class. I loved class.
Yes.
And I can't even remember if there was anything like that. Sometimes, adage was difficult and you'd wobble because
Yes.
you'd have an off day.
Yes.
But by and large, the class was my favorite thing. I just loved the class.
Yes.
Yeah, strange but true.
Yeah. And I remember that in PACT Ballet, we had the great chance to have, a whole family of teachers who were nearly teaching every day. We had a different teacher. We had Jaime Riveros, Ashley Killer, Bruce Simpson, Lorna Hoff, Edgardo. We had also Nicola Miedermeester, who was giving beautiful classes. And, each teacher had a different style. And I remember
Yes.
that for the ballet company, having all these teachers, for us, at least for me, but I was very young at that time, I felt blissful because learning with all these teachers, and then apart of the PACT Ballet Company, when I first joined, I don't know if you ever heard about Miss Audrey King, that she was giving
Yes,
some
I
classes.
did.
Yes. And
Yes.
there were other teachers like Kim Yetman, there was Gillian Joubert, and there were other teachers who were not regularly coming to PACT Ballet, but they were giving classes in other ballet studios, and that I was following also with them.
Yes.
But all these teachers put together,
Yes.
for the young dancer like me at that time, it was a gift, a real gift that I had, So I can imagine that also for you, it was the best of the best.
We were very lucky. We also had Faith de Villiers,
Yes.
who also took us in our junior year for classes once or twice a week, and she played the piano at the same time, and she was an absolute darling.
Wow.
And she gave us so much encouragement. Yeah.
So she was
and Audrey,
teaching ballet and playing piano at the same time.
She was a phenomenal lady.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so I think that in South Africa, all dance technique is based more on Cecchetti and RAD. It's not on Russian Vaganova.
Yes.
Yes.
No,
And
didn't have any of that.
yes. So after PACT Ballet, Did you stay with the company or you went to other South African ballet companies like Cape Town or Durban? Because I know that NAPAC Ballet closed very quickly, very soon. But did you dance with Cape Town also?
No, I didn't. After 3 years in the company, I became friendly with the choreologist, and I'm ashamed to say I don't remember her surname, but I think her first name was Louise. And
Yes,
she'd been working in Germany, and I wanted to go and experience other repertoire and other life outside of South Africa because we were very cut off.
yes,
And so I wanted to go overseas and spread my wings, so to speak.
yes,
Just being curious and
yes,
wanting to learn more. And so I spoke to her, and she gave me a list of companies to go to audition or to try for, because there was a company almost in every city,
yes,
even though at that time, unbeknown to me, Berlin was cut off from the West. And I
yes,
didn't have a vague idea. In my mind, we had no television. I didn't visualize exactly how that was. We didn't get much of that kind of news in South Africa.
yes,
And so I had quite an experience. I did go all over Germany to
yes,
audition.
yes,
And everywhere I went, I found very hospitable people. They accommodated me for the night while I went to class and so on. But
yes,
I was either told you haven't done modern ballet, or you're too short, or don't call us, we'll call you. And then the strangest thing happened. I had a Eurail pass.
yes.
Do you know what a Eurail pass was?
No,
It's a train ticket that we bought in South Africa,
yes.
which allowed to travel anywhere on any train at any time in Germany.
Oh,
You could get them in Europe. Yeah. So I went for 3 weeks on this Eurail pass. So I wouldn't have to pay, because
yes.
dancers are paid appallingly. I
Wow.
wouldn't have to pay for train tickets. And my plan was to use my best friend who was at school with me. She was in Wiesbaden Ballet Company. I would use her home as a base and then go out from there.
Yes,
And so that's what I did. And then at the end of 2 weeks, having not really properly trained very well, you can imagine, traveling and then doing class and then, you know, and I had a week left on my Eurail pass.
yes,
And I thought to myself, I'd already written to all these companies, and I wrote to Berlin, and that letter came bouncing back months later, before I even left to go to Germany. It had been in a plane crash that crashed in Namibia.
yes,
And it came bouncing back 6 months later to say, we're sorry, we have all the dancers we need for the next 4 years, but you can come and do class with us if you like, with pleasure. So I decided, that's what I'll do. I'll go and see Berlin, thinking Berlin was the black hole of Calcutta. You know, you visualize the war and we don't have any idea. And especially as young people, I'll go and do Berlin, and then I'll get overnight, and then I'll come back overnight on the train. So I got on the train, and in the middle of the night at about 1 o'clock in the morning, these, I can only describe them as KGB. I mean, I was 19 years old, and they got on the train and they asked for my ticket and my passport and all my papers. And I said, there's my Eurail pass, and they spoke in German. We don't accept this. We don't accept this. And they stormed out with my passport and my Eurail pass. And they were demanding 59 German marks, which was a lot of money in those days. I didn't have any money. So when they were gone, there were 2 people, an old lady and a very young gentleman on the train, and they wanted to know all about what I was doing, where I was from. We had a long chat in English. They were very kind, and between them, they came up with the money, and they paid for my ticket. I didn't know that we were traveling at that stage from West Germany and through the divide, through the GDR, and the eastern part to get into Berlin. I didn't know that, and that's why that wasn't acceptable to them, because that was a communist territory.
Yes.
So I got in, and while I landed at the station, the young man said to me, "You're not going to go to that theater on your own. I'm going to go with you to the audition," or the class. It was an audition. I didn't think it was an audition. And he said, "I will wait for you, and then I will take you back to the train." And I said, "Don't be silly. You don't know me. That's silly. I've been doing this for 2 weeks. I can manage. Thank you very much. You've done enough for me." No, he insisted. So anyway, I did this class, and 2 people came in, and then 2 more, and then 2 more. But I didn't twig anything. I thought because Eva Evdokimova was in the class, and I might tell you how lovely this lady was. She invited me to do every enchaînement with her from the corner, which was so different from South Africa. She would just say, "Come with me," you know, and we always used to do it in relays, you know, like by rank, according to rank. And she wasn't like that at all. Anyway, after the class, the director, who I found out afterwards, he said to me, "Please take your point shoes and come upstairs with me. I'm going to do a further audition on point." And I said, "But I'm not here to audition." He said, "Come upstairs, put your point shoes on and follow me." And I had these brand new shoes, which I haven't touched now they're brand new, just the ribbons are sewn on, they're not broken in. And I went up the stairs behind him, and I was swinging the ribbons and the shoes and saying to myself, "If my friends could see me now, I am going to make such a fool of myself. I can't bear this, but look what I've got myself into. I better just have the courage to at least do it because he's asked me to. I'm going to fall on my backside." Anyway, he got up there and he put me through an hour on point with periods, fortes. And I think because I hadn't slept all night and I was so relaxed and so convinced it was just not going to work, everything came off. And then after an hour, he came and said, "Please give me your name and address and how to find you in South Africa. I'm sending you a contract." So I said, "Oh, don't be silly. You don't mean that. You can't mean that." And he said, "Don't speak to me like that. I want you." I just threw my arms around him and said, "I don't believe this." Anyway, this poor young man is now waiting outside, unbeknown to me. I thought he'd be long. And I told him, and he said, "You're not going back to Wiesbaden. My sister is an anthropologist. She has a huge apartment in Berlin. You're going to stay with her and my brother-in-law, and they will show you around Berlin." I mean, how wonderful was that experience?
That is
so that's how I ended up.
Beautiful.
I ended up there by sheer, I don't know what.
And
just sheer.
yes. So when you first arrived in Germany, you were not speaking German, only English.
You see, our contracts ended in South Africa in December, and they started in August in Europe, or September. So I had all those months to wait. So that is when I went to Audrey King, to the junior feeding company for classes. And I went to her, and I trained 2 hours a day, and then I had to go and work at Kentucky Fried Chicken to pay my rent. And while I was in Kentucky Fried Chicken, I learned German because we were forced to learn Afrikaans at school.
Yes.
So I could learn it quite easily because of the Afrikaans. I learned German while I was standing at the counter ordering 3 pieces of chicken and a coleslaw.
Well,
that's how I did it.
We laugh about that, but this is a good experience because it's the hardest experience that you had, and I think that is a good thing for the young people of today, to understand how we must succeed in ballet. Ballet life for dancers is not easy. It's not easy at all. So you are giving a wonderful picture of what you have experienced in Germany, and how you were working in South Africa the Kentucky Fried Chicken to get some money and to study German, and so this is a beautiful thing that you have said now. So I know that we are both linked with a special artist. I don't know if my pronunciation is good, but she worked also, I think, with you in Germany, Maria Gisladottir, that she's from Iceland. I don't know if my pronunciation
Yes,
is good.
there's a lot. I can't either. I can't do it either.
She has a
Sure, you're not the only
difficult
one. I'm sorry,
surname,
Maria.
yeah.
I'm so
But
sorry.
But she is
Yes.
a beautiful person inside, and she's a little bit like you, she's a wonderful person inside, and she has been working with Malcolm Byrne and in the United States, and she danced important roles. And I would like to send your interview from YouTube to her as well, because I would love to have
Yes.
her in an interview one day, because I think that she must be a little
Yes.
bit like you. She had also difficult moments, hard moments, and she dedicated herself
Yes.
in ballet with all her heart, like you also did the same. So you made a lot of audition, I think.
Maria, if I may, I tell you, Maria, yes, I did do a lot of auditions. I'll go back to that. But from the day I set foot in Berlin in class,
Yes.
I idolized Maria. I thought she was exquisite. She just had everything. And she was also the kindest heart. But all of us, you mentioned difficulties, all of us in West Berlin in the Deutsche Oper
Yes.
had the same sort of experience, because when they divided it into the East, they sent the best dancers and the best theater off to the Eastern Bloc.
Yes.
So they had to start again in the West Berlin, and they built their own theater, and then they had to import all their dancers. So we were a mixed bunch from Wales, New Zealand, Australia, Egypt, which was incredible to meet all these people. But we had very different styles, but we'd all had those hardships you speak about, which
Yes.
can only build resilience for what life throws at you.
Yes.
But to get back to your question, which was, you
About
spoke about Maria.
yes, about Maria and the
Yes.
interview that I would like to do with her also.
Yes, I know you said many auditions.
Yes, about the audition, you made a lot of audition, of course, in Germany and in Europe, I think.
No, just Germany.
Just Germany. Okay. Did you
Yes.
ever had the feeling that during an audition, you have the choreographer, you have the artistic director, you have the ballet teacher who is leading the class, and maybe some other people who are watching all those dancers with the number, number 1, number 2, they have a little number on the chest. And sometimes while you do the audition, me too, I have been doing a lot of auditions, I had the feeling that they told me you are not accepted, and also some other people have not been accepted. So they only accepted 3, 4 dancers on a bunch of 20, 25, or 30. But in my opinion, the other dancers who were with me, who have not been accepted, looking to their technique, they were much stronger than me, and they could had a chance to be accepted in the company. So do you think, in your opinions, that sometimes the final decision of a choreographer or the artistic director or member of the jury could be unfair next to dancers? Because yeah, I think
Often that happened.
sorry, I didn't understand.
No, I said I thought that happened quite often, actually.
Yeah.
And there could be reasons for that, in that ballet directors who often auditioned in Germany and in Europe, there's a higher echelon and it's considered a business. So it's like football, and they select the best players because they're going to have a draw card.
Yeah.
But I do think that the younger people should have a chance. Everybody should, there should be more effort made to actually just take two more of them. Take the one you want, but take two more of them and give them a chance.
Yes.
If once they've got that opportunity, you never know what they could develop into.
Exactly. Yes. I
That's
agree.
just my personal opinion.
Yes. Because
Yeah.
one of my biggest dream one day, I don't know if I will be able to realize that one day, but I'm trying to, develop this idea to see also with other people who maybe could help to develop this idea. If we could create a ballet company somewhere in the world, uh, mm, giving the chance to that category of dancers who have been refused, but have been completely neglected from the audition, and all those people who have been refused from the audition, to give them a chance. Of course, not all of them, but sometimes you may have
Yes.
surprise. Some people, dancers can surprise you if you give them a chance to work on the
Yes.
technique, even giving a short contract of 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and to improve the technique, to get involved into the idea of new production. In those 2-3 months, the technique is going to improve, and also the individual will change his type of work. But if you say you cannot have all dancers like Balishnikov, who are
Exactly.
strong, you cannot
Yeah.
all
That's what's so
have,
hard.
yes, you cannot have all like Marianela Nunes. You have also the category who is, the technique is not really strong, but it's up to the teacher, it's up to the choreographer to bring those technique better and better and better. This
Yes.
is my
That
personal opinion, you see. But
That is true. That is true. Ideally, that would be wonderful. I think several attempts like that have been made here, but at the end of the day, it's all about money and support, and it all costs money. And to try and do that on your own, you need a lot of capital if you're going to have such an ambitious project, because the audience, you've got to attract them. And people are funny that way. In South Africa as well, we import companies to go and dance at Monte Casino, and the audiences will flock there.
yes,
They pay a fortune, but they've got a perfectly good company in Joburg Ballet or in PACT Ballet, but it was always like that in our day. It's a mindset that needs to change, I
yes,
think.
yes,
But there are attempts being made.
yes. This is why I
Yeah.
think that also creating in different countries the friends of ballet who can support the ballet company or the ballet school are really necessary. You see, this is what
Yes,
I'm trying to
even in
give.
our day, they were marvelous.
Yes, this is what I'm trying also to
Yes,
give as an idea through Ballet International, because in Ballet International you have
yeah,
about 1,800 great artists, but all the rest of the group are people who have never done ballet, but they love ballet. So they could become and act as friends of ballet, wherever they are, wherever they belong to. In every different countries, we have about 83 nations, but they can become friends of ballet and support the art of ballet, support the dancers, and help, because today the culture of ballet and the performing art in general is important. Without it, humanity will die, and the art of ballet will die with
I
it.
agree. Performing arts, yes, it certainly is a worry. Um, I don't think, maybe COVID helped a little bit for some people
Yes,
to recognize that, because once that was removed from their lives, they went,
yes,
oh my gosh, now we sit and, you know, you can't 3D a dancer and you can't 3D or digitalize everything. We
yes,
need that, and we need that music, and we, you know,
yes,
technology can only go so far, but the humanity is
yes.
missing. And
And if I may ask, how many years did you stay in Germany, and did you dance in Germany?
I danced in Berlin for it was about 18 months, I think. I was there for 18 months.
Yes,
We did a lot of lovely repertoire. We had some incredible moments. We did La Bayadere, and we were privileged in PACT to have Keith Rosen come out from the Royal Ballet to teach us Bayadere, and he was immaculate. And we actually were grilled in that ballet. It's quite hard for the corps de ballet, that ballet.
yes,
It's very hard work and quite nerve-wracking. And this person, I don't know if he was Romanian, I know who he was, I'm not going to mention him, came out to produce this thing with a lady. And because I'd had it thoroughly done in PACT at a very high standard, and I don't mean to be derogatory about this,
yes,
you know, it's just one of those things. And the Cold War was on, so they were up against it. They were off the beat completely. Of every step was on the wrong note, off the beat, and I nearly went mad in those rehearsals. I wanted to stamp my foot, but I had to keep quiet.
yes.
And anyway, we only rehearsed for about 2 weeks at the most, La Bayadere, and then we were sent on a 10-day break in December, and to come back around the 5th of January and do the first performance. So we all went off with our classes. The theatre closed because it was over Christmas. I went sledging in Austria to some friends. In my youngness, I didn't even think twice about that, because I thought we'll get back and we'll be working hard. And the next thing, we find ourselves on stage at opening night, having done practically nothing for 10 days. And you know, in the adage, you pick up your foot in point shoes to balance is not so easy.
No.
We're a disaster, and they booed us. The Berlin audience booed us off the stage. We were booed. It was terrible. But then we had other experiences like Symphony and C, new things for me, Raymonda, operas to dance in. And there was a camaraderie in that company where everybody stuck by everyone else. And they were warm people.
What was your feeling when you were on stage and the audience was booing?
I thought we deserved it. I'm sorry. It's true.
Apart that maybe everybody was a flop, but how was your feeling? Was it sad? Did you feel sad about it?
It wasn't funny. I'm pretty sure I felt sad. Yes, very sad.
Well, I had the same experience when I was at the Teatro San Carlo, because we had a choreographer who made beautiful choreographies, but he made one day Cinderella, and Cinderella was a flop. So the first opening night of Cinderella, the auditorium was full at the first act. By the second act, the auditorium was half, and by the third act, there wasn't anyone. Only two persons sitting in the auditorium, and we could hear only.
And you had to go on.
those
You had to go on
two claps sounded like a thunder in that auditorium in our heart. The second night, the auditorium was full, but they started booing all the time because it was terrible. So
my
by
word.
the middle, we had to close. We had to close at the second act. We didn't do the third act because it was so terrible that we didn't do the second act. That was at the Teatro Sant'Anna, which is a shame because they have a good ballet company now. They had also excellent dancers at that time. It was something like 1982, 83, 84. But there were a lot of administration problems in that company. And so
There's
that's,
a knock-on effect.
yes, and this affected also the ballet company itself, you know, because they were not happy of what they were doing. They were not enjoying the production. The only ballet they liked to do was the ballet Excelsior, which is very glittering, you know, with the sets and the costumes, and it's very nice. This had always success everywhere. But apart that, the Cinderella was a flop, a real big flop. And for my chance also, that day, the opening night, I had a ballerina who was in sickness before. She never done full rehearsals, but when she came back to dance with me, during rehearsal, I was rehearsing with a thin ballerina, another one, a second cast. But the original one, when she came back after sickness, she took something like 5 more kilos. And I had to lift her, but she was like a washing machine, you know, heavy like washing machine. That was terrible for me. But I mean, this is the hard life of dancers. You have to get used to all type of situations. And
Thank you for telling us that story. I bet you never forgot it either.
oh,
Something stand out.
You know, there are so many funny things that happened in a ballet life. And also when we were in PACT Ballet, I remember that when we were on tour, I don't know if you remember that, when we were on tour and we were doing Giselle at the Alhambra Theatre of Durban. You remember that?
Yes.
In the second act and at the end of the first act, we had 2 bats who were flying on the stage.
Oh no, I don't.
You don't remember that?
So no, I thought we were going to talk about the dry ice when the dry ice machine leaked oil all over the stage. And I was the first Willie that ran around in that circle and then ended the diagonal line. You know, you stopped dead. And I ran around and I skidded and the whole lot came down behind me into the backdrop like dominoes. And we had to close the curtain, clean the stage. Yeah, I don't remember the bats.
The bat was on the second act, and you could see all the Willies standing like that.
Trying to keep still and not look.
Yes, because they were scared, you know. They said, if we are going to move, the bat is going to fly around. Because the bats are not like birds, you know, that fly on one line. Bats, they fly all around like this. And but it was very nice. Everybody danced perfectly.
Oh gosh.
So after
I have lots of experiences like that of things that go wrong, but we'll take all day.
But it would be nice. We could do a second interview one day to talk about these comic things, you know. Another short little comic thing is I remember that one at the State Theatre, the electricity went off. And we were all in the dressing rooms getting ready for the Sleeping Beauty. And at the third act, you know, you have the Polonaise where all the dancers, male and the female dancers, promenade, yes, and the curtain is still closed and then the curtain opens. And the orchestra started playing, but the curtain got stuck and
Yes.
it was an
now.
opening, and we nearly
Yes.
done all the Polonaise with the curtain closed. And when the curtain opened, all the audience started applauding. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do now. I had forgotten that one.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
So, Bronwyn, when then you left Germany and you came back to South Africa, or you went to other
Yes.
countries?
No, there were some family dramas, and my father asked me to come back.
Ah.
And I came back, but unfortunately, they were in Port Elizabeth.
Yes.
And I learned some lessons there, because I came back and I had to sit in Port Elizabeth for 6 months. And I gave up. I was just going to give up. I gave up ballet. I didn't do a step. I did nothing, but I was so miserable.
Yes.
And eventually my mother said to me, for goodness sake, go to Joburg and try and get to dance again. But again, it was about having to find a job, to get money, to pay my way. And I worked in the Allied Bank, and there was a lovely lady there by the name of Elizabeth. She had a spinal fusion in a wheelchair. We used to go to the boardroom, and I used to go with a tape recorder on her lap. She worked it for me through 2 hours of lunch break. And her name was Stephanie, not Elizabeth, sorry. And I had to start with just pliés one day, tendus the next day, like that. I was just too terrible. I was terrible. And then one day I phoned Denise Schultz and I said, I just wanted to say that I don't know if I really appreciated you at the time when you were our teacher, but I really missed your teaching, and I wondered if I could come and do some classes. And she said, how well do you know Giselle? And I said, well, every single step. It's my favorite ballet. And she said, we had a girl drop out, but we open next week. Do you think you could be in tomorrow? And you can't have her contract because she's ill, but you can take her place in the season. And yeah, so that's what happened. I wasn't that great, but I had to work my way back up again. But at least I got in to do Giselle again. So
Well,
it's weird.
Must have been very difficult after all this period without working, without training. How did you make it up?
See, I had to work every day for 6 months for 2 hours in that office to get through an entire class.
Yeah.
And that was a big lesson in life. Never, ever, ever think you can let it go, not even on holiday. I had to learn that too, in those 10 days that I took going skiing.
Yeah.
You mustn't. You can take a couple of days off, but you must do something.
Yeah.
And it goes faster than you can blink if you let yourself just relax.
Yeah.
It's all right when you're young. Maybe you pick up a bit quicker, but you lose a lot too.
Yeah.
And so it was good lessons for life.
Yes. Do you keep your training until now? Do you do a little bit of training sometime?
Ever since I left PACT, which is 40 years ago, about nearly 40 years ago next year, I do a ballet bar once a week. And a friend of mine, when I left PACT, dragged me kicking and screaming to a gym, which to me was cabaret, and I didn't want to go, but in those days it was all Jane Fonda. So I landed up by default in the gym industry. And that's what I've been doing. I was teaching Pilates and body conditioning and step classes and aerobic classes and stretching classes. That's how I wound up doing that. And so I do go to gym. Yes, I do train. Unfortunately, age is taking its toll. I'm full of aches and pains and wear and tear, but the best thing to do is to keep moving.
Yes.
Or else it gets worse. Yeah.
Yes. And have you ever tried to teach as a ballet teacher?
Yes, I did. I was fortunate. I did a lot of really nice freelance work. So teachers would teach the syllabus and ask me to come and polish it towards the end when the exams were about to take place. and to put some style in.
Yes.
So I really enjoyed that. And then I taught for a couple of teachers in Stedfords, and I choreographed their dances, including my own daughter. I taught her too. And so I got to do those kind of ballet festival works.
Yes.
Then I opened my own studio, a little
Yeah.
tiny one. And I had a gym as well at the same time.
Good.
But I was 44 and I got pregnant with my son
Yeah.
at age 44. And even though once I had him, I tried to go back to it and keep it up. I would see him sitting in the playground till 6 o'clock at night, all on his own. And I thought, you chose to have this child. You cannot do it to him. You know, he was banished outside because he couldn't run around the classes, and I just quit that. And then I just freelanced and dabbled here and there. And then I did, I did become the chief technical judge for the Olympic aerobic championships for a while. I did that for 3 years, yeah. So I had some, you know, the ballet training stand you in good stead for most things, the knowledge of anatomy and so on. But I do wish we had had then what I know now. So many of my mistakes I could have corrected just knowing what I know now.
Yes.
You know, I used to have these terrible round shoulders and I did lift them. I learned afterwards, when it was too late, how to combat that. It was an anatomical thing. And there's a way around that, but I didn't know, and I wish I had known. And I wish we'd had videos to correct ourselves. We only ever had a mirror. We didn't have how much we could have corrected by watching our mistakes.
Oh, that would have been a wonderful thing to have a video camera to just watch our class, our rehearsals, and that would have been a miracle because there are plenty of mistakes. You know, one day I was doing my training with the webcam, and I have been filming myself while I was doing my gym class at home. And looking to the video, I said, "How terrible you are, Jean-Pierre! There are plenty of mistakes, And I said, but I'm so lucky that I don't have you as a ballet student, because if you were my ballet student, I would throw you out from the window. I am doing plenty of mistakes."
Oh, Jean-Pierre, that's true. There is that side to it. Maybe you don't want to know what you look like.
Yes. So I have been experiencing myself, you know, looking to the video, the webcam, and I didn't know that I was so terrible in the video.
Oh, good thing.
And,
but you know, that's how we were with ourselves. We did think we were awful. Some of us did, you know. That's why we died of nerves, because I used to marvel at these. There were some people in the company who couldn't wait to get on the stage. They couldn't wait. And I used to think, you know, they were bubbling over with excitement. And I just wanted to throw up. So we're all different.
So, Bronwyn, my dear Bronwyn, we have nearly reached the end of the interview. Is there anything that you wish to say, to express from your heart to the young dancers who are listening to you as a, you know, an important message for the young dancers? You know, life today is not easy.
No.
It's much difficult than the one we had. And is there anything that you could tell them?
I can try. I feel like a bit of a fraud, actually, but I can try. I mean, obviously, those things about hard work, 90% hard work, 10% talent, they already all know because they've had to go through that. So I won't even go there. I think be curious, examine everything that's out there available to you. Watch different dancers and methods from all over the world. There is so much YouTube, and there's so many recordings today available that we never had. you know, and I think expose yourself to whatever it is you can, and watch the classes and take whatever you can from always, even if it's one thing, you walk away with something to apply, you know, and don't try not to give up. And that sounds very glib, but resilience, tenacity, fortitude, and try and buy confidence in a packet and belief in yourself and eat it. It's easier said than done, and such a hard life, as you say. And there's so much competition today. My mind boggles at what the children are doing. And I don't know how I feel about that, because it's very controversial. I mean, what I look like in photographs at the age of 9, what these children are doing. But then it's the same all over the world. There are pianists that are doing the same, little kids in every field. Times change, and maybe we mustn't be a Mother Grundy about that. We must open our minds to what the human body is capable of. Eurythmic gymnasts, you know, all this kind of thing. Times change, and it is phenomenal what people are doing. And just believe that it's possible. It is possible.
Yes. Is there anything that you wish to say from your heart to the teachers today, to the choreographers, to the artistic director, to improve to the creativity of new ballet, of new music that are disappearing slowly, because everything is getting more contemporary, more modern. We always see the old classic, like Swan Lake, Bayadère, Giselle, The Sleeping Beauty, and all this beautiful ballet of repertoire, but there are no new ballet that can get the same level of the old one. So what is your wish that you say to the choreographers, to the ballet companies, to the teachers, and about creativity, to make something new?
You know, making something new is also about the reality that we live in today. And I really dearly wish that, you know, ballet is an aesthetically beautiful art, and I think those old ballets should never die. But I don't think that that is the fact that should block any new ones. And when you say this to me, I think of history, think research in history, research in other fields, and apply that. I mean, I think that's how creation evolves. We did a ballet once in PACT called Nongawuza, which was about a Xhosa legend.
Yes.
I don't know if you know that, if you knew about that once. I think it might have been before you came.
The only ballet I know before I came was Raka Ballet.
Raka
Ballet, which
yes.
was the choreography that had
one.
been made many years before I arrived.
Can I tell you about Nongawuza?
Yes, tell me.
It was Gary Byrne produced it, choreographed it, and found the music, and he used African sounds. And he came across this African Xhosa tribe legend.
Yes.
A young girl called Nongawuza, by the age of 15, considered herself a prophetess.
Yes.
And apparently the legend goes that she went down, this is in the Wilderness Coast in the Eastern Cape, to the mouth of a river to chase the birds away from her uncle's crops. And her uncle was a chief, and she lived with her uncle. No one knows much about her background any further than that. And she claimed that the ancestors and spirits came and spoke to her and told her that she must go back and tell her uncle, the chief, that the village and the whole of the Xhosa people must slaughter their cattle, burn all their crops, and burn down their houses. And when that happens, the sun will rise in the west and set in the east. And then a miracle will happen. The white man and the Europeans will be chased into the sea. never to be seen again. And these tribes will prosper. The Xhosa tribes will prosper. And she had them believing her. It was like a Joan of Arc. Anyway, what happened was, in the legend and in true fact, this is something that happened. Thousands of people died, and there was a famine, and it was an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
But Gary Byrne produced this ballet, and we had traditional Xhosa costumes, which were well researched and authentic, proper Xhosa beads, midriff tops, short skirts, but we were painted brown, but literally painted brown. You know, the pancake, the white pancake that
Yes.
we used to put on ourselves for dream and things like that. We had a chocolate brown one, but we had little bottles, little things on our hair and beads. And so all of our ears, it had to go everywhere. In our ears, not one piece of white skin was allowed to stick out, and we had no tights, and we had bare feet. So we were covered in this stuff. And it was phenomenal. It was a phenomenal experience, and a choreography that was traditionally African, come modern, come a mixture of everything, but novel in its day. And yeah, it was, we used tomato sauce as blood. There was Cornish in the scene, and it was very controversial. But and this is pertaining to what you're saying.
It had a lot of success.
You know, I'm not sure about that. I do think people were still a bit closed-minded in those days. Because just before that ballet came on, we did Dream, Midsummer Night's Dream. So for us, it was quite a traumatic experience, because we had to paint ourselves in that white stuff for Dream, and then put all this brown stuff on, and then go home at midnight and get this chocolate brown stuff off. It went in the grouting in our tiles, it went in our clothes, it was everywhere for months on end, this stuff. But I don't know if the audiences really, it should come back. Something like that might need to come back. Just to, they are trying in Joburg Ballet. I've seen some good ones. So that's an example.
Yes.
But people are open to escape as well. You know, they need that escape. We've been through really rough times.
So I
think they should do both, in answer to your question.
I can imagine.
But you have to have that need to choreograph, that need to do it. It has to be within you. I think Diane, what was her name? Diane, the lady that you interviewed, that young, beautiful young lady.
Oh, Diana Nowaczynski, yes. She is a student of Fantasia Ballet.
Yes, she hit the nail on the head. She said, you have to have it in you. You know, not all of us do.
Yes, I agree. I like very much the photo who is on the frame behind you.
Darcy Bussell.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Yes, she's there's some all over my house. They're about 30 years old, but I salvaged them. So
okay, now I see just a little part of your head. Could you lower down?
Sorry, I just wanted to show you the picture.
So is there any specific?
No?
Now
you've lost her.
No, it's fine. Is there any specific message that you would or wish that you would like to express from your heart to the Ballet International members who will watch your interview in the next following days and maybe also in the future, and all the people who are going to follow worldwide, because your interview is going to be uploaded on YouTube? Is there anything that you wish to say as a last message, you know, something important about ballet, about, you know, that people might remember your words?
I do. I think, if I might be so bold as to say this, As dancers, I think teachers are giving people anyway. They give of their heart and soul. That's why they're doing it. But I think as dancers, the older ones in the company and the more experienced one in the company must go out of their way to help new young dancers. That was something that I felt I loved to do of my own bat, was just take the first years or in lunch hour and go and help them. Pass on what you've learned, pass on your knowledge, pass on even technical things or just tips. You know, if you do this with your arm, just help them.
Yes.
That's what message I'd like to say. Don't be mean with what you've had to work for. Spread it around.
Yes.
And help. Yes.
Yes. So
be generous. I find that Maria Porova is so generous that way.
Yes.
In her YouTube things she's passed on, I find her incredibly generous. And there's another one, Catherine Morgan. Do you know Catherine Morgan? She's got a lot of bars and things on YouTube, and her now husband, Christopher Sellers, he's also very generous with, he does a bar and he passes on so many things that almost you go back to basics and you think, yes, am I applying that? Because sometimes you think it's automatic. So there's all this available stuff, but even within a company or a setting of a ballet school, help, give, be generous.
So you have been working in South Africa, you have been working in Germany, but more or less the situation in Germany is now the same, a little bit like in all Europe. But do you agree with this rule that ballet teachers or ballet dancers, especially for ballet dancers, depending on the physique, on the potential technique, that they have to retire at the age of 42 or 45, depending if they don't have any injury? Is it really mandatory? Are they really obliged to go and, to quit ballet, to quit the ballet company? They say that sometimes the ballet teachers, they are too old to give class, and sometimes you have old ballet teachers who have great experience. Do you think it's fair?
It's in here. It's in here, and ballet is in here.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm trying to say? Apart from the obvious, it's in here. So why? I think it's terrible. I don't think that should be the case. I don't see it's necessary. Unless it's voluntary, why force it?
Yes. Well, I agree with you, because today in Europe, they are forcing people to retire and they want to take new people. But there are the old people who have experience. And as you say, ballet comes from the head, from the heart. So if you have someone who has a great experience, why do you have to get rid of this person? Why do you have to get rid of this experience, which could be really helpful to young dancers?
It's cruel. I think it's a mindset.
Yes, I think it's cruel. I agree with you. But however, we must respect everyone. We are too little to judge. We are too little to decide. But we try in our little world to make the best of the best and give the best picture of ballet for everyone. Dear Bronwyn, I thank you very much that you have accepted this interview with me today, and I know that you were very tense in the beginning. You were very nervous to do that. You were a little bit...
I was scared. I was scared. Yeah.
But
it was fine. Thank you very much.
You see that you have been speaking and fluently at your ease without any problem. And I'm very pleased.
Well, it's thanks to you. It's thanks to you.
So a lot of love from me, and a lot of love to your daughter who has been helping you. And as soon
She's
as
an angel.
the video will be on YouTube, I will send you the link.
Thank you very much, Jean-Pierre.
A lot
And
of
all the
love.
best to you, and all the best to Ballet International and all those dancers out there.
Thank you.
Grit, stick
Very
at it.
much.
Yeah.
It is an honor
Okay.
to have you in the group.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And to be interviewed by you. Thank you.
Okay. So
Okay. Bye.
wait. I'm not closing. I'll just